Okay, Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum should be an unbeatable team. They star in Fly Me to the Moon, a dramedy set against the NASA flight to the moon. Well, we have Metro Morning's film columnist Jason Gorber here in studio to chat with me today. So happy to see you. You were in Europe, I think, last time we chatted.
I was in Munich, and here I am back. And
here you are.
We have sunrise and we have moonrise all coming together in this little weird lunatic film. It's about lunacy. Yeah, I don't know if it's good. I think it's okay. Like, I think if you just take Fly Me to the Moon on its premise, sort of like a musical, like you just say, okay, I'm just going to turn off all of my, not critical acumen, but I'm going to turn off all my suspicion about what it actually is and embrace it as nothing other than Scarlett Johansson just being great and just walking around in this sort of period piece ostensibly about the Apollo program.
And is it like, when we talk about the Apollo program, I usually don't think rom-com, but is it a rom-com? Is it a spoof?
It's a romedy.
It's a romedy? You're making up new words here.
I don't know where to... Because, I mean, there's dramatic elements. It's the whole sort of, getting together and actually, the 400,000 people that were part of the Apollo program. So you have all that. You have sort of emotional drama of these people that are trying to find themselves within systems that sort of push them out. You have this connection between these two characters where there's obviously meant to be chemistry. And so you have moments that are light and silly and frivolous, and then you have other moments that are trying to be emotionally deep. So it's totally trying to do a lot. But it's doing it within the context of how fun is it to have Scarlett Johansson as this sort of quick talking accent using con person, basically. Except rather than simply being a con woman, she's also has a little bit of Don Draper. Also a con person, spoiler on the whole Mad Men event. You should probably watch Mad Men by now. but that whole thing of it takes that notion of that ad people themselves tell stories about their own past and their own identities and all of that stuff. So there's these weird echoes to other elements of pop culture, all within the context of watching rockets go off. So you have this sort of, it feels like all of these ingredients are sort of brought together. And I don't know that it entirely works, but the fact that it works at all is kind of a miracle.
One of the things that intrigued me is that at the center of this film is NASA faking the moon landing. And I wonder, in a time of disinformation, if that is actually a disservice.
Well, exactly. So, look, I'm Jewish. I'm not very happy when people take one of the most documented events of all time and say it doesn't happen. I'll just throw that out there. So I have people who sort of frivolous say, the moon landing didn't happen. And then they take that on to other major global events that are incredibly well documented. So the fact of the matter is that this is not necessarily a joking matter. That being said, the way it is dealt with in the film is to touch upon that slightly, that whole sort of, we're going to be uncertain about that. And the film does not suggest that the faking of the moon landing was the entirety of what transpired within this fictionalized version of the universe. The moon landing happened, and the Nixon administration was going to fake it as backup. That's kind of where they're coming at it and trying to say that, yeah, there's fake news, but in this case, the fake news is for the administration more so than it's for the American people. It's a fine line. And again, you have to divorce yourself from that because that's, as I said, it's a very valid criticism, but it's a similar tonal criticism saying, I don't want to watch this musical because they start singing. This is central to what this story is. You can ask the questions like, is this a good thing to be doing? Sure. But once you accept that that's the premise of this, and it's about what stories do we tell and how do we actually do this stuff, then it becomes zany, and you simply accept the fact. This occupies, I'm going to use it. Here we are. You ready for a pun? This occupies a very weird space. This is a film that if you're a true NASA nerd, if you've seen something like the glorious IMAX Apollo 11 documentary that came out a few years, there are scenes directly from that are incorporated into this. There are these restored 70 millimeter shots incorporated in the film, documentary-like. The recreation of so many elements of NASA are fantastic. So as NASA nerds, it's great.
Yeah, and if you love space, it seems like no matter what, you should watch it.
But the more you love space, the more it's going to irritate you because the more it messes.
The history.
The more it is irritating in terms of the corners that they're taking, the way they're modifying very simple things like why are they still in Florida assisting with the flight at all when everything's been handed off to Houston? This seems pedantic, but the film invites with such clarity and detail the recreation of the era that the more you know about this era, the more these sort of different modes will irritate. Which brings us to the central thing. This is not what happened. This is setting up a fictionalized version of the world set within this space, as it were.
Right.
And to accept that, to go in accepting it, then you can sit back and just say, man, Scarlett Johansson's great. She looks amazing.
She always does.
She's incredibly stunning on screen. She's so charismatic.
Yeah.
And so the camera just absolutely loves her. And she's a producer on this film as a vehicle, to use another space pun for this. For her, this is an extraordinary moment. As a sort of fluffy summer movie, if you divorce all of that stuff away, it's a lot of fun.
You could probably enjoy it. What's the chemistry like between the characters on screen? And I get excited because anyone says Channing Tatum to me, and I'm probably going to go watch that movie. Like,
actually,
do you like Scarlett Johansson? Hello, Channing Tatum.
I actually love Channing Tatum. He's not awesome in this.
Oh, he's not.
And the dynamic between the two of them is good, but probably not quite as chemically explosive as one would like.
Oh, man, you're on with the puns today, let me tell you.
I keep going. And it's weird because he's a weird casting choice. He's this hulking guy, and the whole point of the astronauts, he's supposed to be a former astronaut. He's basically Deke Slayton, but that's a whole nerd thing. That was going to be an astronaut and was ruled out of being. But when you see him beside the actual people playing Armstrong and Aldrin and Collins, he's like looming over them like some sort of like weird Hulk. And because of that, there's a physicality to him, which is good for the rom-com thing, but isn't really believable. Who would have been amazing in this is like a 30-something-year-old Tom Cruise.
Interesting.
Like a little spry guy who absolutely would fit physiognomically into the notion of the perfect thing, and that's why in Maverick, obviously, we believe him as a fighter pilot because he has that kind of thing. So the dynamic there is fine. He's always, I love him in Magic Mike. I love him in lots of movies. In this one, she absolutely outshines him in The Reflected Glory.
I've got 30 seconds here, but if people love space and they're listening to you and they're like, I don't know if this is for me, is there anything else you would point them to?
So 2 films. That Apollo 11 documentary, you have to see it. It's absolutely unbelievable with restored footage from the original landings to see that unbelievable documentary. And I'm going to give another Scarlett Johansson film, Asteroid City, the Wes Anderson film. She is equally magnetic in this. The sort of love interest in this film is Jason Schwartzman, who is playing Kubrick, basically. And so the whole notion Kubrick associated with the supposed faking of the moon landing was part of the conspiracy nonsense. But Asteroid City, which does not shy away from just being a completely fictionalized version of alien landings and all that stuff, if you're looking for something for a little bit of ScarJo and a little bit of space nonsense, I would definitely recommend seeing that. Not enough people saw that film, and that film is so glorious. It's definitely worth taking a voyage with.
Jason, you're doing it again. Jason Gorber is our Metro Mornings movie columnist and editor-in-chief of TheShelf.com. Fly Me to the Moon opens in theaters today. Come back to studio, okay?
I will. Take care.
Okay, great to have you.
The Shelf.